I never thought my parents would choose my sister over me, but there I was standing outside the house where I grew up with my suitcase in hand, watching the lights flicker through windows that no longer welcomed me. 28 years of being the responsible daughter, the one who never caused trouble, the one who always put family first, and it all came crashing down because Madison could not stand having me around. But maybe getting kicked out was the best thing that ever happened to me. Trefor, I tell you this story, let me know where you are watching from and hit that like button if you have ever felt like the second choice in your own family. And do not forget to subscribe to hear more stories about overcoming life's toughest challenges. Because what happened next will show you that sometimes the biggest shocks turn into the most beautiful gifts. Growing up in Colorado Springs, our family seemed pretty normal from the outside. Dad worked as a construction engineer building bridges that connected communities across the state. He was the kind of man who believed in hard work and fairness, always telling us that success came from dedication and treating others right. Mom taught third grade at the local elementary school, and she had this amazing ability to make every kid feel special, even the ones who struggled. Our house sat on Maple Street with a big front yard where Madison and I used to build snowmen every winter and chase fireflies every summer. Madison came along when I was 3 years old, and I remember being so excited to have a little sister. I would help Mom change her diapers and sing her to sleep when she was fussy. Those early years were filled with the kind of memories you see in photo albums. Family barbecues, camping trips to Rocky Mountain National Park, Christmas mornings, where we would wake up before sunrise to see what Santa brought. I was always the protective big sister, making sure Madison did not fall off her bike or get picked on by neighborhood kids. But something shifted when Madison entered middle school. Suddenly, she was not just my little sister anymore. She became the daughter who could do no wrong. Madison developed into this stunning girl with blonde hair that always looked perfect even after gym class. She made the cheerleading squad as a seventh grader, which was practically unheard of. Parents would stop Mom at the grocery store to compliment how talented and beautiful Madison was. Dad started rearranging his work schedule to attend every single one of her competitions. Meanwhile, I was pulling straight A-grade, spending hours every night at the kitchen table working through calculus problems and writing essays for advanced placement classes. I joined the debate team and won regional competitions, but those award ceremonies never seemed to fit into anyone's calendar. When Madison had a cheerleading competition, the whole family would pile into the car with homemade signs and matching t-shirts. When I had a debate tournament, I would catch the school bus and compete alone, texting updates to parents who always responded with "proud of you," but never showed up. I told myself it was okay because Madison needed more support. Cheerleading was a team sport, and she was performing in front of hundreds of people. Debate was just talking right. Anyone could argue about political issues or literary themes. What Madison was doing was special, athletic, beautiful. I convinced myself that my parents were not playing favorites. They were just giving attention where it was needed most. The differences became more obvious as we got older. Madison got the larger bedroom when we remodeled the house because she needed space for her cheerleading trophies and makeup collection. I moved into what used to be the guest room, which was fine because I spent most of my time studying anyway. When back-to-school shopping came around, Madison would get 3 or 4 new outfits, while I got 2. When she wanted to take piano lessons, I quietly stopped asking for art classes, so the family budget would not be stretched too thin. By the time I turned 16, I started working part-time at a local bookstore. I told everyone it was to gain work experience and save money for college, but really I just wanted to stop being a financial burden. I bought my own clothes, paid for my own school supplies, and even started contributing to the grocery fund when I noticed Mom looking stressed about household expenses. I thought if I could just be more self-sufficient, maybe there would be more resources available for Madison, and that would make everyone happier. Madison thrived under all that attention and support. She got a full cheerleading scholarship to Colorado State University, where she majored in communications and minored in having the time of her life. Her Instagram was filled with pictures of football games, sorority parties, and spring break trips to places I could never afford to visit. Every time she came home for holidays, she had new stories about her amazing college experiences, and Mom and Dad would listen with such pride and excitement. I went to the University of Colorado Denver on academic scholarships and student loans, living in a tiny dorm room and working 20 hours a week in the campus library to cover expenses. I studied marketing and graduated summa cum laude, but my graduation felt quiet compared to the celebration Madison got when she finished cheerleading season. I kept telling myself that this was just how families worked. Some kids need more encouragement, some kids are more independent, some kids are performers, some kids are behind the scenes workers. I thought I was being mature by accepting my role as the responsible, self sufficient daughter. After Madison graduated from college with that communications degree, things started changing in ways I never expected. She moved back home temporarily, claiming she wanted to find the right career opportunity rather than just taking any job. But temporary turned into 6 months, then a year, and I started noticing troubling patterns during my visits home for holidays and family dinners. Madison had developed this ability to twist every conversation to make herself the victim of some imagined slight. If Mom asked her about job applications, Madison would tear up and say the job market was impossible and that people were discriminating against her for being too pretty or too qualified. If Dad suggested she consider entry-level positions to gain experience, she would accuse him of not believing in her potential. Every suggestion, every gentle push toward independence was met with tears and accusations. But the most disturbing change was how she had started targeting me. During family gatherings, Madison would make these subtle comments that seemed innocent on the surface but were designed to make me look bad. She would say things like, "Sierra has always been so serious even as a kid," or "Sierra never really learned how to relax and have fun like normal people." When I tried to laugh it off or change the subject, she would double down, adding, "See, she cannot even take a joke. She has been uptight since forever." The first time Madison openly attacked me was during Thanksgiving when I was 26. She had brought home this new boyfriend, a guy named Tyler, who seemed nice enough, but clearly did not know anything about our family dynamics. During dinner, Madison started telling stories about our childhood, but every story was designed to make me sound weird or antisocial. She told Tyler how I never wanted to play with other kids, and how I always preferred books to people, making me sound like some kind of hermit freak. When Tyler politely asked about my job, I started explaining my work in digital marketing, but Madison interrupted with, "Oh, Sierra loves talking about work because she does not have much else going on in her life." The comment hit me like a slap, especially because it was not true. I had friends, hobbies, a dating life. I just did not broadcast every detail on social media like she did. But sitting there at our family dinner table being humiliated in front of her boyfriend, I felt this surge of anger that I had never experienced before. After dinner, I pulled Madison aside in the kitchen and asked her why she was being so hostile toward me. I kept my voice low and calm, trying to approach it like a rational adult conversation. I said something like, "Madison, I feel like you have been making some unfair comments about me tonight, and I am wondering if there is something we need to talk about." But instead of having a mature discussion, Madison immediately burst into tears and ran to the living room where our parents and Tyler were watching football. Through her sobs, she told them that I had cornered her in the kitchen and attacked her for no reason. She said I was jealous of her relationship with Tyler and could not stand seeing her happy. When I followed her into the living room to explain what really happened, Mom and Dad already had their minds made up. Dad looked at me with disappointment and said, "Sierra, you are the older sister. You should know better than to upset Madison like this." Mom added, "We raised you to be supportive of each other, not competitive." I tried to explain that I had simply asked Madison why she was being mean to me, but they were not interested in hearing my side of the story. I was told to apologize immediately, which I did, even though I knew I had done nothing wrong. That night, lying in my childhood bedroom, I felt this terrible realization creeping over me. My parents had automatically assumed I was the problem without even asking what happened. They had taken Madison's word completely and treated me like I was some kind of bully who attacked sweet, innocent Madison for no reason. It was the first time I really understood how skewed the family dynamics had become. Over the next few months, Madison started telling our parents elaborate stories about my supposed behavior. She would call them crying, claiming that I had said hurtful things during our phone conversations. She told them I was resentful about our childhood and bitter about her success. According to Madison, I was constantly making passive-aggressive comments and treating her badly whenever we interacted. The problem was that none of these stories were true, but every time I tried to defend myself, it just made me look more guilty. If I said that conversation never happened, Madison would cry harder and say, "See how she gaslights me." If I tried to explain my actual perspective, Dad would interrupt with, "Stop making excuses and just listen to what your sister is saying." I started feeling like I was going crazy, questioning my own memory and perception of reality. I decided to try a different approach. Instead of defending myself, I would prove them wrong by being an even better sister. I started reaching out to Madison more often, inviting her to lunch, offering to go shopping together, suggesting we spend more quality time as siblings. I thought if I could just rebuild our relationship, all these misunderstandings would disappear. But Madison rejected every invitation. When I suggested lunch, she was too busy. When I offered to pay for a spa day, she already had plans. When I invited her to a movie, she was not feeling up to it. Then she would call our parents and tell them that I was trying too hard and being fake, like my attempts to connect with her were somehow manipulative rather than genuine sisterly love. I started feeling completely helpless. No matter what I did, Madison found a way to make it look bad. If I spent time with her, I was being fake. If I gave her space, I was being cold and distant. If I offered help or advice, I was being condescending. If I minded my own business, I was being unsupportive. There was literally no way to win, and our parents believed every single word that came out of her mouth. By the time Madison had been living at home for 18 months, the situation had become completely unsustainable, though I was still naive enough to think we could work through it as a family. She had burned through the money from her college graduation gifts, maxed out the credit card Dad had given her for emergencies, and was showing no signs of actually looking for employment. Meanwhile, I had been promoted to senior marketing coordinator at my firm and was genuinely excited about my career trajectory. During one family dinner, I made the mistake of trying to help Madison network in the professional world. I mentioned that my company was hiring for several entry-level positions in communications and public relations, which seemed perfect for her degree. I offered to put in a good word with HR and even help her prepare for interviews. I thought I was being supportive and using my connections to help my sister get her foot in the door somewhere. Madison's reaction was explosive in a way I had never seen before. Her face turned bright red and she started screaming about how condescending I was being. According to her, I was showing off my job success and putting her down by suggesting she needed help finding work. She accused me of thinking I was better than her because I had a steady career while she was still figuring things out. The whole outburst was so intense and irrational that I just sat there in shock, watching this 25-year-old woman have a complete meltdown over a job referral. But the worst part was what happened after she stormed out of the dining room. Madison went straight to our parents and told them a completely different version of events. According to her story, I had ambushed her with criticism about her employment situation and made her feel worthless and stupid. She claimed I had said things like, "You will never amount to anything without my help, and you are embarrassing the family by being unemployed." None of those words had ever come out of my mouth, but Madison was sobbing so hard that Mom and Dad immediately went into protection mode. When they confronted me about attacking Madison, I tried to explain what really happened, but they were not interested in hearing it. Dad said, "Madison is going through a difficult time and your presence is clearly making it worse." Mom added, "Maybe you need some space to reflect on how you treat your sister and what kind of example you are setting." I could not believe what I was hearing. I was being blamed for Madison's emotional instability and poor life choices. The final blow came 3 days later when they called me into the living room for what Dad called a family meeting. Both parents looked serious and uncomfortable, like they were about to deliver bad news. Dad started by saying that they had given the situation a lot of thought and prayer, and they had decided that the best thing for everyone would be for me to move out of the family home and get my own place. Mom tried to soften it by saying, "We think some independence would be good for you, and it would give Madison the space she needs to focus on her next steps without feeling compared to you all the time." But I could read between the lines. They were choosing Madison over me. They were asking me, the daughter who had never caused them a day of trouble, to leave so that Madison could continue living at home without having to face any reminders of what adult responsibility looked like. I asked them how long they thought this arrangement would last, and Dad said, "We will reevaluate the situation in a few months and see how everyone is doing." But I knew this was not a temporary solution. This was them picking sides, and I had lost. I was being exiled from my own family because Madison could not handle having a successful older sister around to highlight her own lack of direction. I had exactly 1 week to find an apartment and move out. During those 7 days, the house felt like a war zone. Madison acted like she had won some great victory, practically skipping around the house and making comments about how peaceful everything would be once I was gone. Our parents avoided eye contact with me, clearly feeling guilty about their decision, but too invested in their choice to back down. The day I moved out was one of the worst days of my entire life. I had found a small one-bedroom apartment across town, nothing fancy but clean and affordable. As I carried my boxes out to the moving truck, Madison stood in the doorway of her bedroom watching with this satisfied smile on her face. She did not offer to help, did not say goodbye, did not show even the smallest amount of remorse for destroying our family. Mom and Dad helped carry a few boxes, but the whole process felt mechanical and cold. There were no tearful goodbyes, no promises to stay in close touch, no acknowledgement that this situation was completely insane. Dad handed me a check for $2,000 and said, "This should help with your security deposit and first month's rent." Mom hugged me briefly and whispered, "Call us when you are ready to work things out with Madison." That night, sitting alone in my empty apartment eating takeout Chinese food on the floor, because I did not own any furniture yet, I felt more abandoned and betrayed than I had ever thought possible. These were the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally, who were supposed to have my back no matter what, and they had thrown me away to appease my manipulative, selfish sister. I cried for 3 straight days, then I got angry for about a week. Then I started going to therapy because I needed someone objective to help me understand what the hell had just happened to my life. Dr. Janet Martinez became my lifeline during those dark months, helping me recognize that what I had experienced was not normal family conflict, but a textbook case of scapegoating in a narcissistic family system. She explained how golden child and scapegoat dynamics work, how some families unconsciously assign these roles to maintain balance. The golden child can do no wrong and receives all the positive attention, while the scapegoat gets blamed for problems and eventually becomes the target of displaced family dysfunction. Learning about these patterns helped me realize that Madison's behavior and my parents' response were not about anything I had done wrong, but about deep-seated psychological patterns that had been building for years. With Dr. Martinez's guidance, I started focusing on rebuilding my life on my own terms. I threw myself into my career with new energy and determination. Without the constant stress of family drama, my work performance improved dramatically. I got promoted again within 8 months and started earning more money than I had ever imagined possible. I made friends with colleagues, joined a hiking club, started dating a wonderful man named Alex, who thought my independence and resilience were attractive rather than threatening. Meanwhile, Madison's true character was finally revealing itself to our parents in ways they could no longer ignore or excuse. Without me around to serve as her favorite target, she started directing her manipulation and entitlement toward Mom and Dad. She would throw screaming tantrums when they asked her to do basic chores around the house. She brought random guys home at all hours, sometimes staying out for days without calling. She treated our parents' house like a free hotel with maid service, leaving messes everywhere and showing no respect for their rules or boundaries. The financial drain became impossible to ignore. Madison had convinced Dad to co-sign for a new car, which she promptly crashed while driving under the influence. She had run up thousands of dollars in credit card debt that she expected them to pay off. She was spending their money on clothes restaurants and weekend trips while contributing absolutely nothing to household expenses. When they finally confronted her about getting a job, any job, she accused them of not supporting her dreams and threatened to disappear from their lives forever if they did not back off. The phone call came on a Tuesday evening, exactly 13 months after I'd been kicked out. Mom's voice sounded shaky and tired when she said, "Sierra, I think we need to talk." I almost did not answer because I'd been working hard to establish boundaries around family contact, but something in her tone made me pick up. She told me that Madison had been arrested 3 days earlier for shoplifting at an upscale department store. Apparently, she had been stealing makeup and designer accessories for months, building up quite a collection before finally getting caught by security cameras. The legal fees were going to cost thousands of dollars money that mom and dad could not afford after 18 months of supporting Madison's lifestyle. But that was not even the worst part. 2 weeks before the arrest, Madison had taken Dad's car out for what she claimed was a job interview. Instead, she had gone to a party in Denver, gotten drunk, and crashed the car into a mailbox while trying to drive home. She had managed to hide the damage for a few days, but when Dad finally saw the destroyed front bumper and broken headlights, Madison's response was to blame him for stressing her out with unrealistic expectations. The final straw came when Mom and Dad sat Madison down for a serious conversation about consequences and expectations. Instead of showing any remorse or responsibility, Madison exploded into the kind of rage I had seen directed at me so many times before. She screamed that they were terrible parents who had never supported her and always favored Sierra anyway. She told them they were pathetic and worthless and that she was done with this family forever. Then Madison packed her bags, moved in with her latest boyfriend, and cut off all contact. She blocked their phone numbers, deleted them from social media, and disappeared completely from their lives. Mom said she had not heard from Madison in over a month and had no idea where she was living or if she was safe. I listened to all of this with a mixture of sadness and vindication. I felt sorry for my parents because losing a child, even one who treats you terribly, is incredibly painful. But I also felt validated in a way I had never experienced before. Everything I had tried to tell them about Madison's character, everything they had refused to believe, was finally being revealed as truth. When Mom asked if I would be willing to meet for coffee to talk about rebuilding our relationship, I agreed, but I was careful to keep my expectations realistic. The coffee meeting was awkward and painful. Dad looked like he had aged 5 years in the past month. Mom kept apologizing, but her apologies were mixed with justifications and explanations that showed she still did not fully understand what had happened. They wanted me to come back into their lives as if nothing had changed, but I had changed. I had learned to value my peace of mind more than family approval. I had discovered what it felt like to live without constant criticism and manipulation. I had built a life that worked for me, filled with people who appreciated my qualities instead of resenting them. I agreed to slowly rebuild our relationship, but on my terms. I would visit for major holidays, but I would not move back home. I would answer their phone calls, but I would not tolerate any attempts to guilt me about Madison's choices. I would be respectful and loving, but I would not sacrifice my emotional well-being for the sake of family harmony ever again. Over time, Dad and Mom began to understand what had really happened during those years when Madison was living at home. They started acknowledging how they had enabled her behavior and failed to protect me from her attacks. Dad even admitted that asking me to move out had been the worst decision we ever made as parents, but I had already moved on from needing that validation. I had learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to walk away from people who cannot or will not treat you with basic respect, even if those people are family. I had discovered that being alone and healthy is infinitely better than being connected and miserable. Most importantly, I had realized that my worth as a person was not dependent on my family's approval or recognition. My relationship with Alex had grown into something beautiful and stable. We moved in together after dating for a year, and he proposed 6 months later. Planning our wedding without Madison's drama and manipulation felt like a gift. Mom and Dad attended and seemed genuinely happy for me, though there was an undercurrent of sadness about Madison's absence that I chose not to address. Madison never did resurface in any meaningful way. We heard through mutual friends that she had moved to California with some guy she met online, but she never contacted our parents directly. I think she expected them to chase after her and beg her to come back, but they had finally learned that some bridges are too damaged to rebuild. Looking back on everything that happened, I can honestly say that getting kicked out of my family home was one of the most painful but ultimately transformative experiences of my life. It forced me to develop strength I never knew I had and showed me what unconditional love actually looks like versus what dysfunction disguised as love looks like. I learned that real family is not about blood relations or obligation, but about mutual respect, support, and genuine care for each other's well-being. I learned that you cannot control other people's choices, but you can control how you respond to them. Most importantly, I learned that sometimes the greatest gift life can give you is the opportunity to discover who you really are when nobody else is watching or judging. Today, I have a career I love, a marriage built on genuine partnership and respect, and friendships with people who celebrate my successes instead of resenting them. I have a beautiful house that reflects my taste and values, not someone else's idea of what my life should look like. I have peace of mind and emotional stability that I never thought possible during those chaotic years of trying to fix unfixable family dynamics. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I had never been forced to leave home, if I had continued trying to make peace with Madison and enabling my parents' dysfunction. I probably would have stayed stuck in patterns that were slowly destroying my self esteem and limiting my potential. I might have missed out on the amazing life I have built for myself. So while I would never wish the pain of family rejection on anyone, I can say with complete honesty that sometimes the worst things that happen to you end up being the exact experiences you needed to become who you were always meant to be. Sometimes getting pushed out of the nest is the only way you learn that you can fly. The greatest lesson I learned from all of this is that true peace comes not from being accepted by everyone, but from accepting yourself enough to walk away from situations that diminish your spirit. Sometimes the family you choose becomes more real and more supportive than the family you were born into. And sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is love yourself enough to demand better treatment, even when that means losing people you thought you could not live without. Have you ever had to make the difficult choice between family loyalty and your own emotional health? How did you handle a situation where someone you loved was treating you poorly, but everyone else took their side? I would love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like and share it with someone who might need to hear that they are not alone in dealing with difficult family dynamics. And remember to subscribe for more stories about overcoming life's challenges and finding strength in unexpected places. Thank you so much for listening to my story, and I hope it reminded you that you deserve to be treated with love and respect by the people in your life. Wishing you all the courage to choose your own happiness and the wisdom to know when walking away is actually the most loving thing you can do.